2024. Actually, I'm going to call it Wowvember 2024. Hello, Sheryl Willis over at Go Arizona Real Estate with eXp Realty, coming at you with the Wowvember 2024 monthly market update. I have to tell you, wow, like really wow. There's so many different things I want to share with you, so stick through this with me, guys. New president means new policies, but it also means we have the same US deficit. So the very first thing everyone's talking about is let's reduce the interest rates and make home more affordable again. That's not going to be so easy, and we're not going to see a huge decline. So if you're waiting for that interest rate to just come crashing down, it's not going to happen. We've already seen a little bit. We saw interest rates come down in August. Now, remember, guys, that was before the Fed lowered their rate. It was kind of in anticipation of that. And the numbers actually show us when interest rates come down to those fives, the buyers start coming out because we saw that in the September numbers. But then when interest rates went back up, even though the Fed rate went down, contracts went down again. So again, what you think you want is not necessarily what we want. We want to talk about, again, first of all, what those interest rates might do in 2025. And if you're waiting for them, there's many reasons I would recommend you do it sooner rather than later. Here's the reason. Again, we have a huge US deficit, and in order to lower those rates, we would have to increase taxes somewhere else or generate other revenue for the country in another way. That's not going to happen. So while we have this high deficit, we're going to continue to see high interest rates. We will see, like I said, maybe in the high fives, hopefully in the mid fives by the end of next year. But the country is borrowing so much. That's why the feds have to charge again. Again, it's a trickle effect, right? Another way to bring home affordability down is by changing the price. And let me share with you, I saw this article, gotta share it with you, from Redfin. Let me pull it up for you. Message from the Redfin CEO to Trump, like directly at him. Let me first by telling you, Mr. Trump, actually it's President Trump right now, let me point out that I did not endorse your campaign, but I'm going to hold you to this now. And what you need to do is you need to lower the prices. And what you can do to lower those prices is this right here. He can do this by setting aside well-meaning regulations on home building that limit construction and make housing less affordable. Local comment periods, that means neighbors having an input on what goes in their city. Traffic studies, like if the roads, the infrastructure can continue to support the amount of people that currently live there, let alone the increased traffic. Parking requirements, this is mostly in areas like I've already seen this in Southern California where they've been allowed to build these multiple dwellings and there's literally only 2 parking places in front of the single family home, and they've built 4 units on that. And so the parking is insane. Environmental reviews, like what was already previous on that land. Was it, a landfill? Was there once a gas station and things like that? And again, limits on apartment buildings. Let me talk about that in just a moment because this girl's not real happy what we've seen in Arizona with our current governor. These rules currently are set by state and local governments, but the federal government could create a strong incentives for states to adopt simplified, consistent housing regulations, just as it does with the drinking age. So let me point out to you guys what that means is we're going to have the government coming in and enticing our state, like bribing them and telling them, loosen your purse strings and let these builders go in there and build these mostly high density areas. Could be more single family home, but needless to say, and giving the general public, the residents of the city, less voice. This is going to change the complete landscape, and this is something that Arizona is very different than other large metropolitan areas. They have been very pro real estate, meaning very pro owning a home, owning your actual land. You don't see a lot of condominiums, you don't see a lot of townhomes. And until our current regime of Governor Hobbs, we hadn't seen as many rentals. Let me just go ahead and divert on that. We saw Governor Hobbs talk about the studies of 100 years. And if we had continued at the building pace in certain areas at the rate we were going to be 3% shy of water supply in 100 years. So we needed to change how building permits were issued based on water usage. And while she's restricting more building, she's allowing high density building, not following any rules. What exactly does this mean? It means any rental. This means apartment complexes. This means the build to rent. So they're allowing builders to build single family homes, but they don't need a water certificate. These are large communities. And they're even allowing these they call these build to rent also. They have a common area like pool, and they don't usually have garages. They may have a few for rent, and they have little bungalow type homes. These 3 bedrooms with little tiny patios are renting for like $2,800 a month. So not only is she giving these type of developers, these are not the same developers that are building single family homes that are helping to ease that price point problem. She's encouraging these type of builders and the high density that also puts additional stress on our services, which that Redfin thing didn't make a comment on. Fire, police, emergency, hospitals, etc. The more people you have, the more problems you have, and you have to exponentially plan ahead. They've also, Arizona was one of the few that had rental tax. That goes away December 31st of 2024. That'll make it consistent with the rest of the country. So I do have to say that was kind of odd. But needless to say, so we have massive amounts of, let's just call them doors, okay? We have thousands of rental doors that have been allowed to build, and because they are charging astronomical rents. What do you think what happened with the privatized landlord? They also raised their rents. So government doesn't make rules to change things, it's their policies. And the current White House regime, thankfully, will be changing in just a couple of months. If when you look back, you're going to see the damage done to our market in so many ways. And so to correct that, it's going to take a lot, and it's going to take a couple years. So let's get back to what I wanted to share with you, everything else. Another one of the economists that I watch closely is Lawrence Yun from NAR. And his prediction is that we are going to be seeing actually an increase of sales over the not next year, but 2 years. Again, this is sales though. It's not property values. Let's see what he has to say specifically, like exactly. So Lawrence Yun comes in to actually say, he is projecting an 11% higher level of new home sales and an 8% level in 2026. So again, let me just point out, this is sales, it's not property values. But here's the butterfly effect that will happen. Real estate is solely based on supply and demand. When there's too much supply, prices go down. And the likelihood of that happening on a national level, let alone a local Phoenix level, it's just not going to happen. We have more people moving here. We can't even keep up the pace. And look at what has happened on our new permits. We saw it take before a builder, and this is what, with the whole president change, and they look at only those exact 4 years that they are in the White House. It really is, it takes 2 years for things to come together. And that's why it's really hard for any president or anybody in an elected position to do much in a 4-year term. It really takes at least an 8-year term. I realize there's some other things that are or other positions that are longer, etc. But it really takes about 8 years to see momentum and things change. And what we're seeing right now, anyways, with the change, things are probably going to be straight out out the front door in January. Like he is preparing. I think we're going to see some of the fastest changes we've ever seen, but typically it's a 2-year time frame for things to change. So if we look at this building permit chart, you can see here that in 21 and 22, right? Well, actually 2020 and 2021. Gosh, all those 20s just drive me crazy. In 21 and 22, how's that? We saw building permits increasing. Yay. And then we saw interest rates go up and we saw buyer sentiment go down. Now, it was to drive down the craziness. But honestly, it should have been called not 1 year, but 2 years before it was called. The amount of time that they didn't raise interest rates really hurt our community. And that's where we saw a lot of the property values go up exponentially. The fact, again, that we had Wall Street and hedge funds and corporations coming into our market and allowing that for as long as they did, those are the reasons we had that false inflation. So when interest rates went up as late as they did, what was the first thing to happen? Those type of buyers got out of the market and we saw a plunge in demand. And once that plunge in the demand, again, most of the corporations, most of Wall Street and hedge funds and things like that, once they got out of the market, even the little guy was like, I can't afford the home that I could have afforded a year ago. So buyers that waited to get 20% down really lost out. And that's unfortunate on the Dave Ramsey kind of people. Even Dave Ramsey has come back and said, oops, because those people that were waiting to pay off all their debt and save up 20%, they missed their opportunity to buy a home. So he's redone his strategy as well. So needless to say, once we got Wall Street and everybody out of the market that didn't belong, we now have a different problem. And that different problem looks like the fact that homeowners that live in their homes today, they might not love their home, but they love their mortgage payment. And if their mortgage rates are 2.5, I've even heard 1.99. If they are on that low end, they're only paying $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month in a mortgage. They are not going to move. They're going to make that house work. They're going to build on the house. They're going to add a second level. We're going to start seeing that type of modifications to homes, not exponentially like you did in California or Oregon or Washington. Again, we don't see those kind of homes, those what do you call them? Like multi-generational building the casitas, because we have HOAs. We have HOAs that will continue to monitor and keep out those type of unusual buildings. I'm not going to say they're not going to happen. Where we're going to see those happen more often than not, though, are going to be in the no HOA communities. Any community that has been built, I wouldn't say any, the majority of the builders that came in, and these are national builders, in the 90s to now, all have an HOA. So we are not going to see necessarily those type of modifications that you are seeing in other states that are having affordability problems. Here's the thing, guys. I'm originally from Northern California. Don't shoot me. But the fact that my children can afford a home, maybe it's not their perfect home, but they can afford a mortgage and get into being a home buyer in the greater Phoenix area, even if they have a 45-minute hour commute to work. I'm from the Bay Area. That is not even an option for the young generation out there. So when we look at what the median price is for first-time home buyers, we are still very affordable. The fact that you can buy a home, maybe not be your dream home, but you can get into your first home very affordable. Let's take a quick peek and look at what the median price has done in the greater Phoenix area, not just this year. I want to show you year over year over year. So again, when we're talking about market crashes, just Phoenix is not the Phoenix that was in 2008. And because of the various economic development departments, they have made Phoenix a destination for employers. And in a very diverse economy. Whereas in the early 2000s, the only thing Phoenix was really potentially known for was construction. So when the world crashed, so did Phoenix. So when we came back with a vengeance. So today, when we look at the median price of a starter home, which is going to be about 12 to 1500 square feet, it's not the big homes, it's not in the higher demand areas, because you're going to say, where do you get this price? But the median home, 12 to 1500 square feet, is today right at $370,000. You can't get that in any of the large metropolitan areas, but you can still get it in the Phoenix metropolitan area. If we go back to 2021, it was 360. Yes, in mid 2021 is when the craziness went on, and we didn't see the feds step in and help. It just would have been out of insane. I'm glad they stepped in when they did, but it was kind of late. Point is it brought it back to 360 in 2022. So when we also talk about the favorable times for buyers in our market, let me show you the screen real quick. This is a really hard graph to explain, but let me just point out to you, there are 3 areas here that show you where the blue line and the green line come together. This is where demand and supply come together. When they come together like that, and there's just a little bit more of a demand than there is a supply, that is a buyer market where we don't have values declining. This means it is the best time for buyers to buy. In the last 10 years, we have seen it happen 3 times. It happened in 2014, and most of you who are shopping today probably weren't shopping in 2014 or even watching the market. We saw it in December of 2022, and we're seeing it again right now. Now, let me tell you, I think that what we're experiencing is going to be a monumental Q4. And anybody that buys in 25 and 26 and forward, they're going to say, I coulda, shoulda, woulda, bought in the December of 2024. I'm forgetting what year we are at. And that was I wouldn't say bottom of the market, because if you see this, we're not at a bottom. Let's go back to, again, in 2021, 360, 2022, 360 in November of 2022. By a year ago and a year later, it went up to 369, 490. And today, that same median number is at 370. So we have been flat during a time frame when, again, the current regime in the White House was saying this is going to bring prices down. And let me tell you another thing that is going to affect buyers next year, depending on how much the market changes. This is what makes me really nervous for buyers. Right now, since August of this year, the DOJ was pushing, because they knew there was a good chance the White House was going to change. So under the current DOJ, they were pushing for rules and the laws to change as quickly as possible. We knew before they went into effect that there was going to be a lot of unanticipated problems because of the way they did this. My first thing that I saw too was poor veteran buyers. Here we are trying to say thank you for your service, and they were ones that got stuck the most. So the VA did issue a temporary approval that they could pay for buyer agent commission. But here's what's going to happen. And already it will happen in the future when the market changes to more of a seller's market. So there is some green light for you sellers out there. When the market changes to more of a seller's market, or even when it becomes competitive, that's going to happen this coming spring in 2025. If you're the only offer in there, you can ask the seller to pay for our buyer broker compensation. And since the August 1st change, every single seller and builder has paid all of our compensation. When it becomes competitive, they're going to push it back on you. the buyer. And this is going to hurt the buyer again. This is what I mean by the current White House has caused so many problems in our real estate market on a national level. No one really even knows how it's going to shake out until they start talking about it. I feel like no one was allowed to say it. And since November 6th, everybody's talking about things now, right? But before then, it was like, say nothing. So for those of you that are waiting for the market crash, and this is one of my favorite, I love like calling other people out. No filter girl, right? This guy was really making a lot of noise for the last couple of years. Reventure. And it's interesting how he just kept talking about crash, crash, crash. And now how I watch his videos too. Like I want to be informed. I want to know all sides. And so when I watch his current videos, he talks about he's talking to the investor, first of all. He's not talking to the average person out there, right? He's talking about people that want to take high risks and go where other people don't want to go. All right. I call those the low lying fruit, right? One of the things he included, and again, he was it's coming down, it's crash, Phoenix is going to come down. And so there was a lot of apprehensive buyers that I feel like, again, missed out on some really good opportunities. And because he has quite a bit of following. But his most recent video, he actually now is down to, okay, maybe there's not a crash, but here's some great deals that I found. Literally across the country, he's combing the markets and he's identifying like 5 houses. Like, again, that just shows you there are some areas like I know Florida is experiencing a lot more of a downturn, and I think Austin, Texas is as well, and everything. It depends on what the reason for that housing prices were going up. And since the interest rates have gone up here in the greater Phoenix area, the majority of the buyers have been owner occupied. So you didn't see that false inflation. We also didn't get as much BlackRock and again corporations in here as some of these other markets like Austin and Florida. But needless to say, what I'm trying to say is, Sheryl, you talk too much. All right. So when I looked at his current video, I want to point out 2 things. Number one, he no longer is trying to I don't know how he made money before, but what he's doing now is a membership to sign up on his website. And that's how he's making his money. So you can use his online map, which, by the way, I have a new website that's coming out in about a week's time. By the time you get this video, actually, it should be out, and I'll include the link below. It's amazing. You're gonna have to check it out, and I have a super awesome reload guide in there. But what I'm trying to say is, he just wants to be the know-it-all, and people went to him because he's a fear monger. But he does mention a Buckeye home in here, and I want to say this to any buyer. If you are looking to buy in Arizona and you don't plan on staying in the home for not 1 year, not even 2 years, I'm going to say 3 years. If you think you are only going to stay in Phoenix for 2 years, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you and tell you to rent. And I know that you're like, what? Why would a realtor say that? Well, sometimes it does make sense to rent because I honestly do not think that we're going to see an exponential amount of appreciation. I hope we don't. I mean, I know that sounds weird. I like to see the slow and steady because that is really what a community needs in order to kind of validate really where the values are going. I am so tired of people saying that we're inflated and we're overpriced because we are not. We are not. When we are looking at the vast majority of people that are moving into the greater Phoenix area, and this is captured, we can see because their tax returns have been filed for 21 and 22 and 23. We've now seen those numbers. The average individual that have moved here is earning $150,000 a year. That's an individual. So a combined married household, that is This is what's showing up in the 22, it's actually 2022 tax returns. Have the numbers have been released, and now we can actually see. Now, the people that have lived here, yeah, they're the ones that are being pushed out. I'm not going to say that it's affordable to everyone. I had somebody call me from Florida. They lived just outside of Palm Beach. They wanted to move to Scottsdale. They wanted new construction in Scottsdale for under $800,000. And I told her that doesn't exist. And she was just like, "Oh, come on." And I said, "Well, do you have eight new construction under 800,000 in Palm Beach?" She was like, "Oh, please." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "But I don't live in Palm Beach." I'm like, "Okay, that maybe that means like Scottsdale." And she lives just outside. I said, "Well, where do you live?" And she says, "In Jupiter." I have no idea where this is. And while I'm talking to her, I'm looking up the median price in Jupiter, Florida. It's still like it's absolutely crazy, right? And I said, "Well, do you have new construction over or under 800,000 there?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, we don't either." Like, I don't understand. She's like, "Well, what if I go a little bit further north?" Well, a little bit further north is a national forest. It's never going to go out that far. So, well, what if I go a little bit to the west? Yeah, you can go a little bit to the west. That's the city of Phoenix. And then you start going to Surprise and Peoria and things like that. And when she saw how far it was from Scottsdale, she was just so beyond mad. She said she was not moving to Arizona. Okay. We're not cheap. Actually, Florida is cheaper. I realize they have higher priced luxury homes, so does Beverly Hills. Scottsdale and Paradise Valley are our luxury markets, and they're very different than what I call the general population markets. So back to Buckeye. Buckeye, if you are not going to live in your home for at least 3 years, I'm going to tell you you're probably not going to see enough appreciation in order to sell your home for a profit. And it's different in different areas. Like if you're buying in Chandler, I'm confident you'll see the appreciation. But if you're buying in Buckeye, like this guy called out on his YouTube video, here's the thing: Buckeye is still way the heck out there. I know it's been in the news. They talk about it being like the new up and coming area. They talk about Teravalis, which is a community that everybody has been waiting for. Get this, you guys, ready? 20 years. Over 20 years, they've been talking about this Howard Hughes community, and they actually broke ground 2 years ago. It's happening. Its sister community is called Summerlin in Las Vegas. And guess how old Summerlin is? It's 35 years old. That's how long it takes to build these cities. So when people even call me and they say, "Well, what's going on with Teravalis? I'm interested out there." I'm like, "I don't know why you're interested out there. Number one, it's only dirt. Number two, it doesn't have any views that it keeps putting on their website. Number three, there's no freeways, there's no grocery stores, there's no gas station, there's no schools, there's no, like, it's going to be a really long time." So people are buying out there, again, watching the marketing, going to these websites and being tricked. That's why you got to give us a call, because I'm going to give you the honest to God truth. And here's the thing too: when you buy in Buckeye, it's not necessarily the area that's going to be desirable or overly desirable like Verrado. Verrado is absolutely amazing, but guess what, you guys? They are now celebrating their 22nd year of development, and they're only about halfway done. Just to give you an idea, again, how long it takes. They just got their first Costco. So if you're buying in a non-Verrado Buckeye area, expect your home to just be like this, because you're going to be competing with builders for the next decades. 2, 3. You got to give me a call. Again, it's not everything you see on there. And I will be perfectly honest with you. All right, let's talk about what's going on in our market. So contracts, although they went up in September, they went down a little bit in October, but I'll tell you, they've already picked up in November, the first week when we look at it. But let me tell you, ever since November 6th, my phone has been ringing off the hook. I can't be the only realtor that's getting inundated with phone calls. I have had so many buyers that have literally called me on a Thursday. They arrive Friday, they're under contract by Saturday, and they're closing in 3 weeks. Cannot tell you how many. Well, I could tell you, but I won't. The point is, I'm not the only realtor that is experiencing this. And I'm telling you, you're in a small window to be in such a favorable buyer's market. When we start pulling November numbers, which won't be till the end of December, it's going to be too late because I'll be reporting those in January. Get my point? You got to give us a call. I think we're going to have a lot of wow members We're going to have a lot of wowness coming in 2025. If you are thinking of coming out this spring and you haven't called me yet, give me a call. Let's put a plan together. Let's get you on our calendar. It is going to be busy, and I want to set the right expectations for you so that you can get the best deal possible. Right now, like I said, this is the best market for the not so perfect buyer. If you are looking for, if you're a VA buyer, we've been able to get buyers into homes with zero money or very little money, $500. If you're an FHA buyer, only need a 3.5% down payment. We've been able to get sellers and builders to pay for all your closing costs and buying down your rates. National builders are where you're getting the biggest deals right now, and they are offering permanent fixed rate 30-year loans for as low as 4.5%. Most of them are 4.9. Some of them are offering a combination between a permanent buy down as well as a short-term 2-1 buy down. I told you, my phone just keeps ringing nonstop. Not kidding you. Seriously, 7 days a week, morning, noon, and night, we're getting calls like crazy. Let me show you again real quickly though, median price of not a starter home. These are going to be kind of that 1,500 to 2,000. These are still not luxury, but these are slightly larger home. And again, we see the same pattern is that just before the craziness that we saw with Wall Street and all the hedge funds and everything like that, the median price of that home, 1,500 to 2,000 square foot home, was right at 425. It went up quite a bit. It came back down in 2022. Like I said, that was the best time to buy. 419, 945 went up a little bit last year, and it went up again a little bit more. So anybody that waited, it's now going back up. And the median number is a much slower pace. That's why we look at here's what the average does. And this is also what interest rates do. So nothing moves until we can look back over a year, 2 year, 3 years period of time, which again, what that YouTuber doesn't ever do. You have to have something to compare it to. When you see in the news that they're talking about, we have some of the highest inventories that we have had in the last 5, 7, 10 years. Yay! Yay, yay, yay. Inventories need to come up. We had such a low, we were down in the 20% bracket, and we're finally up in the 80s. We're still not in the 100 though. And let me tell you, the fact that again, the NAR chief economist, Lawrence Yun said, or is that Yoon, said, we're going to see more transactions. More transactions means they're going to absorb that inventory. That means we're going to have a lower inventory and higher demand, and then it turns into a seller's market. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. That's why buyers need to get off the fence. If you're thinking about buying, give us a call. There's even down payment assistance programs. The builders are being super cooperative. The big luxury builders, not so much. They are doing some price reductions. Cash buyers, yes, cash is gold, but I'll tell you, the sellers, resale sellers, are not coming down. They're willing to offer concessions though, and the large luxury builders, they're coming off a little bit on the prices. We were able to just get a home at $912,000. We got it at $800,000. That is actually a local builder. There's a lot of different things. You got to give us a call. You're not going to be able to find all this stuff online. I promise you. It's not what you think it is. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, nights, or weekends, we got your back when moving to Phoenix, Arizona. I cannot wait to talk about December. I'll see you next month. Bye.